Hello, good evening, and welcome to Glasgow Rangers Nation podcast live. Like I say, in the live chat tonight is your show, guys. It is a Q&A. I've got no script prepared. It is down to you to ask the questions, and I am joined again by the fantastic Laura Hatton from TikTok. I was just on a TikTok live. Laura, how are you doing today?
I'm really good, thanks. How are you?
I'm all good, all good. Just dealing with the madness that is the run-up to Christmas, and obviously the madness that is the Ranger fixture pilot that's ongoing at this moment in time, Laura.
Wow, I know, it's incredible. What's going on?
So just before we get into the questions and answers, obviously, Laura, what did you make of last night's game?
I mean, we played well. I feel like last night could have been a chance to get some more goals in for the goal difference, but it is hard to score when you've got 10 men behind the ball. But do you know what? Job done.
Absolutely, job done. That's the way I look at it. And just it's all about getting the 3 points, closing the gap on that lot from across the city. And Philippe Clement said as much, didn't he, in his post-match when he talked about the fact that it's very hard to play when the game is pretty much compacted to 30 yards of the pitch, isn't it? And you've got basically every player inside that 30-yard space. It is absolutely crammed. So I thought the lads did very well, obviously, to get the goal with Cyril Dessers, and then obviously the captain fantastic himself comes through, and he certainly seems to be turning everyone, even those that were hating on him, Laura.
Yeah, are you talking about Tav?
Tav.
Yeah. Do you know, I'm going to admit I was one of the people that was on his back for a while there. You know, he's not captain material anymore and whatever else. But no, I was so wrong. He's fantastic. His stats are amazing. His goals are incredible. I love Tav. He's
absolutely.
And a fantastic
115 goals, Laura. 115 goals and 112 assists from right back.
For a right back, that's the thing. People need to remember that he's a right back, and his stats are incredible. So
absolutely,
Tav is the man. I'm so glad he's our captain. I wouldn't change him for anybody.
Absolutely. We've got some good questions already, and I'll get to those questions shortly. We've also got the Laura Hatton fan club in tonight as well. I can see.
Oh, have we?
Can you see the fan club? Can you see the live chat, Laura?
No, I can't see the live chat. Oh, wait there.
Okay.
Oh, I've come off the screen.
There you go.
Nah, is it just the wee ones coming up at the bottom under your face?
At the moment, yeah, I've got the whole thing, I think, on StreamYard. I don't know whether if you're on a mobile device, you can't always see all of it. But we've got someone asking here about Alan's asking for a friend. Is Laura single? Apparently, there you go, Laura. Guys, we're not here to talk about relationships. We're here to talk football.
Yes, we're here to talk.
Dear.
The other night you were getting the relationship questions as well when the football was on.
Oh, yeah. Let's not go there. Let's not go there. That's complicated. Anyway, yeah, I've got to just bring up one thing before we get into the questions tonight. Scott Hammond, banter clause, got to love the Santa banter days. And as I said to Laura on TikTok earlier, I said that it was nice to see there was no Santarian abuse at Ibrox last night, Laura.
Santarian abuse. I love that. That's brilliant. I mean, Rangers to come and do that, I think it's brilliant. Absolutely fantastic.
Absolutely. Welcome to Jers123, who's come across from TikTok. I know there is a bit of crossover, obviously TikTok and YouTube, a little bit of rivalry there. So let's get on with the questions now. Before we get to the pre-prepared questions, I just want to go to one of the questions that's been asked in the live chat, because obviously I'm aware that the live chat goes very, very quickly at times. So we miss out on things. So Random Madness asks, we need midfielders bad. Do we need to turn to Bailey Rice now, is the question. Laura, what do you make of Bailey Rice from what little we've seen of him?
So it's lagging. I'm struggling to hear you now, Owen.
Okay. Just asking you, is that better?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the guy's asking about Bailey Rice. He says, we need midfielders bad, obviously massive injury issues now with John Lundstrom out. Do we need to turn to Bailey Rice now?
I mean, I don't think we've got much more options, have we? I mean, our centre mid now, it's a shambles. So I was thinking that myself, other than Bailey Rice. I mean, we don't have much options. So I think we...
Right, yeah, absolutely. I agree. Bailey Rice is he's a young lad. I suppose the one thing is Clement doesn't think, I was saying he doesn't think he's 100% ready, but there's been ready and there's needing them. I mean, look, everyone knows that I've slaughtered John Lundstrom this season at the start of the season because he wasn't great at the start of the season when Beale was here. But since Clement's come in, it's been a different Lunny. Laura, I mean, that tackle on him last night was horrendous, wasn't it?
Horrible. I don't know how he finished that game.
I know. And I don't know. And the one thing that really worried me, Laura, about last night was the referee initially books him. If the ref thinks that is a yellow card, then I'm sorry. There is something wrong with refs in this country.
The Scottish refs are a joke as it is, but I've seen that for every single angle, and there is no way the ref could have seen that as a yellow card. What was he thinking? It was
absolutely
terrible.
Sorry, Laura, carry on.
Oh no, that was me. That was me. I've just seen it tackle. There was
absolutely, yeah. RRM, one of my regular contributors, always gives a great contribution. Guys, you want to read some really good comments on the videos? Read some of RRM's comments, some great comments. It says, sorry, and Leon King before Rice. I know Leon King has played central defensive midfield for Scotland under 21s and for Rangers B. So, yeah, that is an option. Definitely an option. Let's have a look at some of these pre-prepared questions. The first question, I think this might be a cheeky Celtic fan, but I wanted to talk about it because it is an issue and it is something that I want to address. Is a tug on a shirt in the box not a penalty, Mr. Dallas? I think that's probably some reference to me talking about my refereeing qualifications that I've got. Laura, for me, we've had a lot of penalties, haven't we, for these tugs on the shirt in the box, right? Now, for me, as someone trying to take my blue goggles off for a minute, which is very hard, but as a referee, you are taught the moment someone pulls a shirt in the box, it is a penalty kick. And I personally don't get the furore that accompanies any Rangers penalty that is given with a tug with a shirt tug.
I completely agree. These teams, they are constantly tugging on the shirts. You tug a shirt in the penalty box, it's a penalty. You're going to give away a penalty. So don't cry once you tug the shirt and give away a penalty.
Absolutely, yeah. And for me as a manager, I'd be more upset with my players. I mean, you've got Barry Robson crying, Stephen Naismith crying. But if you go back and watch those incidents, Haring and I think it was Gartenman, they pull shirts. Now, whether or not it's and another term I really hate, just sort of stemming from that question, Laura, is I hate the term soft penalty. Now, I don't know about you, Laura, but for me, there's two types of penalty. It is a penalty or it isn't a penalty. There's no such thing as a soft penalty because there's no such thing as a hard penalty. And if they pull shirts, it is a penalty.
You pull a shirt in the box, you're going to give away a penalty. It's as simple as that. If you don't like it, don't do it.
Absolutely. And people going about say, well, Rangers haven't given any penalties away. But for me, there's a couple of reasons for that. One, you watch, there isn't any shirt pulling going on because it will be given. And to be honest with you, Laura, I don't know about you, but if that had been the reversed and that had been Connor Goldson pulling Haring's shirt and he goes down and Hearts get a penalty, or Gartenman is in the box and I don't know whose shirt, I can't remember whose shirt he pulled against that, but I think it might have been Goldson's again. But if it's reversed, I'm absolutely fuming with our player. I'm absolutely so annoyed with one of our defenders for doing that.
Of course, I'm the exact same. The shirt pulling is really starting to annoy me now, and if our players were doing the same as what you're saying, I would be livid with them, and I would say, the other team deserve the penalty because modern day football, you can't do it, especially if you've got VAR and everything. Just don't do it.
Absolutely. I mean, and I'm a lot older than Laura, and when I grew up watching football at a very young age, we watched defenders that it went on all the time, shirt pulling, wrestling and whatever, and it was just kind of accepted and allowed to go on. The Graham Roberts, the Terry Butchers of this world, down south in England, the Mark Wrights of this world, those people, they did it. But football was different back then. The modern football is very much a sport where they're trying to obviously encourage attacking play, trying to protect, well, apart from in Scotland, protect players. And it is a completely different game now, Laura.
It is modern day football. It's changed. Don't get me wrong, I would like to go back when it wasn't as soft as what it is now. But the fact is, modern day football, it is soft. We have got VAR. You're not allowed to tug shirts. And if you do, you're going to give away a penalty. It really is as simple as that.
Absolutely. And Random Madness makes a point about that. He says, Craig Levine has always had his teams do that. He even done it as a player. Did he not punch one of our players when he was playing? I think he did, actually. I think I remember that being brought up before the game. But yeah, I mean, obviously it goes on. Managers did it. Everyone does it, don't they? So there we go. Let's have another look at any. Quickly check the question. Oh yeah, I think RM makes a good point. It's consistency here, and I think Balogun had his shirt torn and no foul. Yeah, that was against. I think that was Aberdeen where they tried to swap shirts with him, didn't they? Was it Aberdeen? I think when Balogun has his shirt torn.
I mean, it was ripped in half, and there wasn't even a foul given.
Absolutely, and that's some of the decisions. I mean, CJ Novo. I love CJ Novo, and he posted on Twitter earlier about penalties. About the fact that apparently some pundits and some fans of other teams are already questioning the Cyril Dessers penalty from yesterday, which I cannot believe, because even the St Johnstone goalkeeper at the time put his hands up and goes, "Yeah, I took him out." But go on, Laura. Sorry.
He put his hands up because he knew it was. We all know who was saying it wasn't a penalty.
It was on Twitter. It was what CJ Novo was saying, that he's heard some fans of other clubs and pundits saying that it wasn't a penalty, that he went down too easily.
Unbelievable. Never.
Absolutely. Stephen Fay makes a brilliant point here. He says, if a Rangers player got his leg broken in the box, it still would not be a penalty to the whole of Scotland.
Oh, of course. We spoke about that last week. He could be beheaded. Oh, penalty Rangers. Never touched them.
Absolutely. And as it Colin says here, if you slid in on a guy like that in the street, would be in the cells. Absolutely. And good point here from Morgan. Says the other side of Glasgow went into meltdown because of the penalty and the red card yesterday, which I did joke on the live stream. I'm sure Michael Stewart somewhere condemning John Lundstrom for putting his leg in the way of the St Johnstone player, and saying it was John Lundstrom's fault, no doubt.
Unbelievable. That's all football though, and isn't it the blue goggles taught him?
Absolutely. Now, Davy Johnson asks a very interesting question. One of our channel members says, is anything less than the treble a failure this season, given how poor Celtic are right now? Laura, what's your take on that one?
So, I mean, of course you're going to want the treble. Of course you are. Anything less than the treble, I don't know if I would quite consider it a failure. Well, you're going to feel like you've failed if you don't win these cups. 2 out of 3, I would. If we only won this cup, then I would consider that a failure. But of course, you're going to want to win them all. So for me, 2 out of 3, I wouldn't consider a failure. What about you, Owen?
I agree. I think if we take the League Cup and we take the league, I think the league's kind of is, given the position we're now in and the way we're playing and the mentality that we're using, I think there is a difference. And I honestly think that, yes, James, I would love to get the quadruple. I'd love to win the Europa League, the Scottish Cup, this League Cup and the league. But I think if we did win the league and the League Cup this season, given where we've come from, I think that's the kind of thing we've got not got to let ourselves get carried away, expectations run away. Look, Laura and I probably would agree on this, that we'd love this to be 4 trophies this season, or even a domestic treble. Of course we would. We're Rangers fans, but being realistic with where we've come from, how bad it was at the start of the season, how far we were behind the league, how much we've put into that, how many injuries we've got in the squad at the moment, and what Philippe is getting out of this squad. I think if we did win the league and the League Cup, that would represent a great starting point for us to then perhaps next season obviously go on to a treble and hopefully, a decent run in the Champions League as well.
I completely agree with everything you said there. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's great. Yes. Robert says he loves your top.
Oh, thank you. We train and jump in.
Absolutely. Is that one of the training tops?
It's just like a wee training jumper, I think. It was on the website, it was in the training section, so
it's nice. Good orange.
Yeah, I got a couple of seasons because it's just the badge and the Castore badge. So
yeah, I got one the other day. I got my orange one there. Half price, £36.
Brilliant.
Plus the 10% discount code from 4 lads. That was good. Alan Moore says we need the league. Absolutely. Agree with you, Alan. I think the league, for me now, Laura, the league has become a bit of a must, I think, given the fact that, and I know it's one game. Look, It's one game at a time, one game at a time. But the fact we're only 2 points behind, we've got a game in hand, we're 2 points behind them. You know, we win that game in hand, we go a point clear. For me, the league's become a bit of a must now, a must this season, Laura.
Absolutely. A few months back, I thought, how do we catch up to Celtic? How do we do it? Now, Matt, I've completely changed it. The league is an absolute must now. And you know what? We can do it on the 30th. We could go a point clear, and then we've got another game in hand, which I'm sure is on the 24th of January. It is. It's a must, and I think this is our focus now. Although, do you agree we play better in Europe than we do in the league?
We do seem to be very well suited to Europe, don't we? I mean, Europe's the only place that we've seen a 90-minute performance. I think, you know, the Betis game was a 90-minute performance. And if you go back to obviously the Europa League run, you know, of not last season, of season before, again, fantastic. Yeah, yes, last season was a bit of an anomaly because I think injuries obviously played a large part in that. The fact we had to go obviously with a very makeshift defence, the fact we were in the group of death in the Champions League. But yeah, we do play well in Europe. They do seem to raise their game in Europe. But the Europa League is going to be exceptionally tough. Not that I'm trying to be negative here, but it is going to be really tough this season to win. You know, you've got a Liverpool team that are flying high in the EPL. You've got some of the other, AC Milan, you know, could be through in that. You've got, I think, Villarreal are in there. There's some very fine teams in that Europa League. And you look at some of the teams that are in there, it's almost Champions League-esque in the Europa League at the moment. And looking at that draw, I don't know, Laura, about you, but I would love to play Marseille for two reasons. One, to get revenge on them. And the second reason is to see Rina Gattuso back at Ibrox.
I never thought about that. Because people have asked me who I would like, and my answer now is none of them. I wouldn't, but that's actually a fair point. That might now be my answer when people ask me who I would like to play.
Yeah. Get Rina Gattuso back to Ibrox. He'd get a hero's welcome, wouldn't he?
Of course he would. Of course he would. That would be.
Did you ever hear that story about him and Walter Smith and Gaza? Apparently, it was before the Old Firm game. There was a training session, and Gattuso was running around, kicking every single player, just flying into tackles. And Walter Smith was like panicking because obviously he didn't want anyone injured. So he says, and Gattuso didn't speak very much English. So he calls Gaza over and says, Gaza, you played in Italy. Do you speak any Italian? And Gaza says, oh, yeah, a little bit. And he says, well, go and tell Gattuso to calm down. So Gaza goes running over to him and says to him in Italian, he says, Rina, he says, boss says you need to try harder if you want to get in the team on Saturday. And he just went around and started kicking more people.
Oh, that's... I love hearing stories like that.
He's the one player that you wouldn't ask to go. And I mean, Gaza, he should have known that Gaza would be up to something, isn't he? So, you know, it was classic Gaza.
Absolutely. I've loved to have been in their friendship group, honestly. I would have loved it.
Yeah. I tell you could do a whole pod on Gaza stories. You really could. RM makes a great point. He says, one thing for sure, we're the only team with a chance of winning a treble. It's nice to read that.
That is, and facts.
Absolute fact. Long way to go, but it pretty much boils down to who wins the transfer window. And I'm excited to see who our team bring in, says Stephen. Ewan says the Mankey mob are just adding more poop stains to their underwear the way we're about to overtake them. And some other comments. We'll get to some more of your comments in a minute. Let's get on another one of the questions up that was sent in. Let's go to the next one here. This one here is from William. Says, what positions need addressing in January and which can wait until the summer? It's a good question, William. I think because obviously January is a dreadful time to rebuild a squad. It is a seller's market. You do find that in January, teams charge over the top for players because they know that you need certain things. So, you know, everyone knows that we're short of central midfielders, we're short of strikers at the moment, we're short of wingers, so they can probably charge a little bit more than they would charge at the end of the season. So for me, Laura, I would say we definitely need a striker, you know, given the fact that, yes, I know Dessert is coming into form. Danio's out till April. Kemar Roof is injured yet again, which was just sad to see. And obviously he was clearly frustrated with the way he reacted last night. But for me, a striker is an absolute must. I would say as well, a winger is also an absolute must. Laura, what positions for you do you think we need to strengthen in January?
So I'm the same as you. Up top, 100%. A striker, a consistent striker, somebody you know is going to come on and score, and we need to fix up that centre mid. Now, so that for me, that's my two positions for me: a midfield and a striker.
Okay, absolutely. Yeah, I think some people have talked about centre back, left back. I think we've probably got enough to get through to the end of the season there and go out in the summer transfer window and look at centre backs. I agree. The defence, even though we have the best defence in Scotland, which I think is largely down to Jack Butland, we do need to refresh the defence. Nothing against Connor, nothing against James Tavernier or Big Leon, who's been fabulous this season. But none of them are getting any younger. And that's the issue, I think, around that. Leon's 36. Can he go on for another season? James is 32. He's going to eventually, lose that ability to constantly get up and down, up and down. Borna's not getting any younger and he's out of contract in the summer. So I think there is a need to overhaul. But for me, that can wait till the summer. For me, like you said, Laura, it's striker for definite. Central midfielder, winger, I think is another one possibly. Although you could argue with McCausland, Wright, Sima, Matondo, you can maybe even leave that to the summer and just address the centre midfield and the striker position. But it was a good question by William there. And I think, look, it is going to be, I think, another fascinating summer upcoming as well, Laura, with just, I think, a lot more players in and out.
Oh, I think we're going to see a lot of changes in the summer. January, I can maybe only see one or two, maybe. But the summer, I think we're going to see a lot of changes. And I completely agree with what you were saying there as well. I'm kind of looking forward to the summer. Our back four, and even when they changed them a wee bit and everything, I think they are great. They are getting old and we are going to have to start looking at that. But for now, I think we're okay in that position.
And we're having Jack, and let's face it, having Jack behind them just, I think, does fill them with confidence and does give them that added something this season. Because nothing against Alan McGregor, because I know Alan McGregor is your all-time favourite and I don't want to upset you. But McGregor, near the end, he wasn't coming for balls. He was staying on his line. And I think having Jack back there, knowing that he will come for the ball, he will sweep up behind the back four, it's just giving them that little bit more confidence. And I think it's enough to get through to the end of the season.
No, I've said the exact same, that Butland is what I used to scream at the telly for McGregor to do. He's coming out where McGregor never. So I completely agree with that. That didn't upset me in the slightest. I'm totally on board. I mean, I was one of your.
I don't want to upset the McGregor. And Alan McGregor, I know you love to watch Glasgow Rangers Nation.
Oh, I think I've lost you again.
Oh, I think Laura's frozen a little bit there. Are you still there, Laura? You think you froze for a minute?
Can you hear me?
Good question here from Darren, Laura. He says, do you think we should bring... Yeah, I can hear you, Laura. I can hear you loud and clear. He says, do you think we should bring back El Buffalo?
Nah.
What do you think, Laura?
No, I don't think so, because I mean he's not getting much game time where he is now. So for me, even though he looks a lot fitter physically, I don't. No, it's a no for me. I miss him, I do, but it's a no for me, I'm afraid.
I agree. I think we've gone past that now. I think, given the way that it finished, I think if it had finished better last season, that we hadn't had the, him looking very unfit, him looking very, disinterested at times, I think it could have been different. But for me, he's another player I just don't think Philippe Clement will even look at. Given Philippe Clement's obsession with having players fit, players being at the peak of their condition, that's just not Alfie. And he's getting older as well. I just can't see that happening. I just think there's better options out there to sign. We're going to talk about that in one of the questions shortly. Darren agrees with us. He says, of the past, we move on. James Quinn says, as a Rangers fan of 36 years, I go into every game expecting to win. Therefore, we should be expecting to win every competition we are in. James, I agree. Of course, that it's whether it's realistic or not. Yeah, I agree. We should obviously do that. We are Rangers, and as Rangers fans, we want us to win everything. I think what Laura and I were kind of saying with that thing is that, this season, if we came out with those 2 trophies, it would be a good season for us. So, and RM makes a good point, building on what you said, I think, Laura, about us playing better in Europe. And I think he's spot on here. He says you get more time on the ball in Europe because you don't often see the low block.
that is, I've said the exact same words myself. You do get more time in Europe on the ball. It's nicer to watch.
And we've got Ian telling us to calm down. We're still a work in progress. Yes, I agree. We are. Let's just quickly check on any more comments. We'll get back to any comments that are coming up in. I think RM says as well. Striker in January. That's all for me, unless we've moved players on and have to replace them. And here's an interesting one of the question kind of thing. Always a sunny day. Buster says, get Shankland in. Now, Laura, this is another question that is vastly dividing the Rangers fan base. I watch all the other pods. I love, Club at 22. I love Rabble. I love This Is at Ibrox and Jersnet and Heart and Hand and Gallant Few and Stands of Ibrox. Love all those. But the one thing that comes across whenever Shankland is discussed, he vastly divides the fan base. You've got, I would say, 50% who do want him, 45% who no, under no circumstances, and 5% who just couldn't give a monkeys. So where do you stand on the Lawrence Shankland debate?
I'm very much with. I would like to see him come to Rangers, and even more so after he scored against Celtic last week. I've been watching since his name's been mentioned. I've been watching him. I've watched some clips of him. I've watched his goals. I think he's had like 8 this season. And I'm very much on that. I would like to see him come to Rangers.
I would like to see him come. I'd love to see him come. I just look. I know he divides the fan base. I know he might cost a lot of money. See if I've still got the picture. And I haven't got the picture anymore on my overlays. But if you saw the passion that he celebrated that victory over Celtic with, it's clear he doesn't like them. He doesn't like them. And I think for me, he's a guy who scores goals in Scotland. Yes, he might not do brilliantly in Europe, and I get that. But if we go back to someone like Chris Boyd in the SPFL was absolutely awesome. Scored goal after goal after goal. In Europe, not so good. I just think that Shankland is someone who can perhaps get us over the line in the league. I think there's a deal to be done there. I think, Hearts are playing hardball. They're saying they don't want to sell him. Of course, they're going to say that. But I think, given there's been rumours going around about 3 million plus Lowry or 3 million plus Scott Wright, I think there's a deal to be done there. We've got players that we can move to Hearts, who Hearts will take for plus a bit of money. For me, Shankland would definitely be someone I think who could help us get across the line and help us win this league. Because one thing for me, Laura, that I see when I watch Rangers is we're just not clinical enough in front of goal. We don't put teams away enough. We miss a lot of chances.
Yeah, that completely on board with that. I say this in every game that we miss. We need a consistent striker. We need a goal scorer, and for me, Shankland is a goal scorer. And yeah, I want him. I want him to come to Rangers in January.
Absolutely. Ian Deal says Alfie could not cope with Big Phil's regime, which is links on what I was saying. David Hutchison says, evening, Owen and Laura. Faye, Pishy Wishy. I think he's slagging Wishaw off.
Pishy Wishy.
Is it? I've never been to Wishaw. Is it that bad?
No, Wishy's actually not bad, but it always does get called Pishy Wishy.
Yeah, lots of comments. I'm trying to flick through your comments. As we go. Let's go on to the next question that came in. Let's try and get back to those from the people who posted on the community tab. Remember, guys, whenever we do a Q&A, I always put a community tab post up on YouTube with a Q&A sign, and so get your questions in and your question gets brought up on the channel. Sophia Clark says, love the podcast. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Sophia. How much is too much for Abdallah Sima? What a question. How much is too much for Abdallah Sima? Laura and I were kind of talking a little bit about this on TikTok, on Laura's TikTok. And guys, if you haven't checked it out yet, I'll put it on the bottom of the screen. Please check out Laura on TikTok. Where's it gone? I've lost it now. I will bring it up in a minute when I find where I've hidden it. But she's at Laura Hatton, LORAH, and then HATTON on TikTok. Check out Laura. I'll put it on the bottom of the screen in a moment. I don't know, Laura. This is a tough one. I love Abdallah Sima. I just love the way he plays, the passion he plays with. I love that. But how much is too much? I think, if we could get him for somewhere around 7 million, like Brighton paid for him, that for me would be okay. But anything around 10 million, I just think is way out of Rangers' price budget at this moment in time. We just don't have the money we used to have, one, because of the financial situation of the club. We've got to obviously try and keep the books in balance. We don't want to go back to another 2012. And also the fact that Scottish football just does not get enough money. It doesn't get anywhere near the money, obviously, that even championship clubs in England are currently getting. I mean, you've got championship clubs in England paying 16, 20 million pounds for players. So it's madness down there. Laura, how much is too much for Abdallah Sima?
I wouldn't go past the 7 million either. Like what Brighton paid for him. Sima, I'm a fan. I see my scoring goals right up there, but I still think he's making silly mistakes. All players make silly mistakes. I just seem to notice Seema's quite a lot. So for me, the absolute maximum would be the 7 million, just giving Brighton what they paid for him.
Yeah, I think, as well, if you're given the fact that he's out of contract, I think it's 2025, he's out of contract as well. Paying a lot of money for someone who's only got 18 months left on their deal is a bit of a short-sighted one. Although apparently down south, Southampton paid £10 million for Ross Stewart, who's injury-prone and only had 6 months left on his contract. So, it's a tricky one. And I think the issue obviously comes where could we face another Malik Tillman situation where, Sima wants to come perhaps, but then the prices get out of hand. And I think Tillman's about to go for 14 million to PSV in the January transfer window, which incidentally, guys, nets us 1.4 million. But I do fear another Malik Tillman situation with Abdallah Sima, Laura.
Sorry, you broke up a wee bit there at the end. I just heard it just broke up just before you said Sima.
So I was just saying that I do fear a little bit of another repeat of the Malik Tillman situation with Abdallah Sima.
Aye, I definitely. I can't see us getting him. I think the money will be too high for him. And that's why, like we were saying earlier, you need to try and not fall in love with him, because I don't know. I just can't see us keeping him. Can't see it. I think they're going to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. RM says I would take a gamble on Sima, but no more than 9 million. Daniel says, I think agreeing with what we said, I feel maybe priced out of a permanent move. I mean, the worry is obviously, if he starts attracting attention from down south, the moment English Premier League clubs become interested, you're just going to get smashed out of the water, because we talk obviously about the fact that we spent, 13, 14 million in the summer on players, but I mean, that's one player. That's an average price of a player down south. The money situation down there is just utterly ludicrous. And yeah, if the Premier clubs come interested, we've got no chance. Stuart says Rangers won't spend over 7 to 8 million. David Hutchison makes a good point here. He says that Owen Sima is only 22. He's still learning. I mean, that's a great point. He is going to be someone, if we can secure him, Laura, would fit bang in with that trading model, wouldn't he? He would be worth a lot of money in the future.
Absolutely, of course. He's young, he's fat, he's fast. He scores goals. I'm probably being a wee bit critical saying the mistakes, but I found myself saying, my son could do better. I think quite like Sakala, and I can always remember the Union Bears made a song, Sakala, and I find it quite fitting for Sima, and it went something along the. I think it was, he's brilliant, but can I swear on here?
Yeah, you can.
It was something like, he's brilliant and he's shite. He definitely won't score, but he might. I feel like Sima, it's so hard with him. He, like I'm saying, fast, he's scoring goals and everything, but there is still a lot of mistakes there. But like he said there, he is still young and he is still learning. And I think he would be a great fit for Rangers, but can we afford him? I doubt it. Yeah.
Ewan Minton says, I reckon Brighton would want 10 million, but they would go for 8 with 20% sell-on clause. We could do that. I mean, that is a possibility. You never know. I mean, this new director of recruitment could be a superstar at negotiation, and he could obviously get the deal done. We don't know. A question from the live chat here. This is obviously something that's broke today. Do you think the European Super League will happen given the court case? Daniel, I'm going to say no. I don't think it will. There's so many clubs today have come out and said, no, we're not interested. You've even got some of the smaller clubs in Europe, like FC Copenhagen, coming out and saying, no, not interested. Some of the big German clubs have said, no, we're not interested. Even some of the English clubs have come out today and said, no, not interested. So, look, I really cannot see the European Super League happening, especially as we've kind of already got one anyway with the Champions League, and the way that the Champions League has changed next season, which I'm still getting my head round. I don't think it'll ever happen. Honestly, don't think it'll ever happen. Laura, have you got any take on that one?
I'm just the same as well. I don't think it's going to happen.
I mean, there was that talk, wasn't there, having an Atlantic League at one point with obviously Rangers, Celtic, Ajax, Feyenoord, Anderlecht, Genk, and all that. I mean, that might be interesting, obviously, you know. But I can't see that ever happening because Scottish football would die, despite what Craig Levein says, without Celtic and Rangers.
Of course it would.
Did you hear those comments, Laura, that Craig Levein made about the Scottish League, how it would be a better league if Celtic and Rangers went to play down south?
No, I never seen that.
So Craig Levein apparently in an interview stated the way to improve the Scottish game was to get rid of Celtic and Rangers down south because the Scottish game would be better if there was no Celtic and Rangers.
Well, I don't know how it would be better. I definitely don't agree with that. We're the two most talented teams in Scotland. I would like to see more Scottish teams being a challenge for us. But nah, they're going to be better. Absolutely. I don't agree with that at all.
Absolutely. 100% agree. Absolutely. So quickly flick through some questions. Let's get up our next question. Here we go. Good question. No, I've had that one. Good question here from RRM. I think obviously about the youth products. In the last 10 years, who are the panel's top 10 Rangers Academy players and where are they now? You know what? I went away and researched this, Laura, and I'm going to be honest with you. I struggled to find a lot of Rangers youth players who've come through the system in the last 10 years. I can find some from before, but in the last 10 years who've gone on to have massive success. Really have struggled.
Other than Nathan Patterson, and I mean, he's not got massive success, but he's done well. Other than him, I completely agree. There isn't many. Lowry and King, who we've got, are probably up there. There's no many names I could pick out that have went on and been successful.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, famous RFC agrees with you, says obviously Nathan Patterson. I mean, but the thing is, I suppose at the moment, Nathan Patterson isn't even getting a game for Everton. Stuart, I was just about to come on to him. Billy Gilmore, but again, he went to Chelsea, didn't really succeed there. Yes, he is getting a game for Brighton now. So yeah, he has succeeded, but there's an awful lot of players who were highly rated and highly tipped. Robbie Ure was another one. I mean, he's playing in the, I think he's playing for Anderlecht's B team now, which you can argue is not much of a step forward, having played for Rangers B team to move kind of there. You know, you are struggling for names there. That just players that have. Lewis Mayo obviously has left. He went to Kilmarnock. Again, that's a bit of a step back.
Lee Kai Kennedy, I'm sure the last I heard he was playing for Hamilton. Can you call that a success? No.
Absolutely. Yeah, that I mean, I think RM raises, I mean, rather than going through now and listing player after player, I think he raises a really interesting question for me, Laura, though, is the lack of success at bringing through players is quite shameful, really. We do need to improve that. If we're going to bring in a trading model, if we're going to be a club that is a success going forward, we do need to start bringing through some of our own players, given the fact that obviously we haven't got the cash we used to have to go and buy the likes of the Laudrups, the Alberts, the Rixons, the De Boer brothers, the Moles, those kind of players, the Amorusos. We haven't got that money anymore. So we do need to doing that, to bringing through those younger players. And obviously Ross McCausland is one who's come through now and is starting to have a success, but it's still very early days with Ross. You raised Alex Lowry as well. Again, it's very early days with him. Bailey Rice, one of my favourites, obviously Cole McKinnon, Aaron Lyle. But again, it's still very early days with these guys. But we do, I think, need to do something about this youth system and start bringing through more players.
I agree. And I don't know. Do you think Clement is the type to do that?
He did. I mean, to be fair to him, he did it at Monaco. He did it at Bruges. He did it at Genk. He did give young players their head and give the young players an opportunity. And I think, I can't remember the guy's name at Monaco. His name is, I've lost his name now, but he was a young lad he brought through. And I think then the second season of Clement, they sold him for something like 25, 30 million pounds, I think, to Real Madrid. So he has got a reputation for doing that and developing them. And RM makes good points, like I was saying, without going back in time. Alan Hutton, Charlie Adam, Danny Wilson, players who went on to have success down south. Obviously, Alan Hutton for the likes of Villa, Charlie Adam, Blackpool, Liverpool, and so on. But look, yeah, in the last few years, last 10 years, as you said, RM, it has not been a great story for Rangers. It really hasn't. And then we've got to hope that obviously Ross is the start of that new generation of players coming through.
I know. Do you know? I didn't know Ross had came up through the academy. Is that right? I didn't.
Yeah,
Oh well, that was news to me. I didn't realise that, but I think he's going to be a success story.
Absolutely.
Ross. But then I thought Nathan Patterson. Well, Nathan Patterson, he has. I mean, he's played for Scotland. You know, I guess he has been a success, but I thought he would have been a bigger success. Same with Billy Gilmore. I thought he would have been a bigger success as well.
Absolutely. I think the other problem we've got nowadays, and I think, you know, is the whole situation is that I think we are going to have a fight to keep some of these players in the academy. I mean, there was talk, I think it's Ashley Munn, who's the young goalkeeper, 17-year-old, who's been playing for the B team recently, who Arsenal are after. And the problem is when English Premier League clubs are paying ridiculous amounts of money for kids, you are always going to struggle to keep hold of them. I mean, my dad's a Leeds fan, and they've got a young player, a really promising young lad, 15-year-old, called Finley Gorman, who they had massive hopes for. He's just signed for Manchester City for £3 million, and he's 15 years old. I mean,
Wow.
it's silly money, absolutely silly.
That's crazy.
Crazy. I mean, Laura, if your son gets to 15, and let's say, you know, he becomes a promising footballer, if someone came in and offered you £3 million or sharing that £3 million with the club to go and play down south, you'd take it, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. Of course I would. 100%.
Anybody would. Any dad or mum would. Of course, there will be a big success. I think Morgan says absolutely, 100%. RM says we spend over 3 million a year on the academy, and I think that's something RM. Hopefully, that obviously bringing in this Tom Taylor, who's the performance director. Now bringing in Niels Koppen, who's director of football recruitment, bringing in Zeb Jacobs, another Belgian who is running the academy, who I think has had a relationship with Koppen. No, that sounds wrong. Not had a relationship with Koppen. That's just going down a completely different scandalous thing. And I did not say that. What I meant was he'd worked with him before, so he knows him. I think that's the hope that we can get the academy moving forward. Now we're putting in place these young lads, these guys to oversee these young lads coming through. Is what I was trying to say in a really bad way there, Laura.
I knew what you meant. It's all right.
Oh God, let's hope that's not on the front page of the Daily Record tomorrow. Niels Koppen in love crying. Them Jacobson. So awful. James Quinn says Big Derek Johnston made his debut for the first team at 16, and I honestly think that's something we've, as a team, Laura, we've got to do. Is give some of these younger lads a chance. If you look at the and I don't want to keep banging on about, but if you look at the EPL, there's a lot of young lads are getting a chance to play now. I can't remember. There's obviously Phil Foden was very young when he started playing for Manchester City. Is it Curtis Jones? I think the guy's called a place for Liverpool. He's he's a young lad coming through. But Bakary Sagna, not Bakary Sagna, I can't remember the guy's name now. The young lad who plays on the left wing for Arsenal, Eddie Nketiah, who's a striker for Arsenal. All these young lads are getting a chance down south. So it's good that McCausland is, but I really would like to see some of our younger lads getting a chance in the first team. Not necessarily starting, but at least coming off the bench, Laura.
I completely agree, because us as the fans, we need to see what these players are like as well. And the last 10-15 minutes, bring them on, give them some game time, let us see what they're about. Definitely, because they're young and they're fit, and getting a start with Rangers, they're going to come out and give 100%. They're going to want a place on that team, and so for me, I bring them in.
I don't know about you, Laura, but as much as we love to see these expensive new signings, when you see these players who come out who are, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 million pound players, there's something extra special, I think, about seeing a young lad who's come through our system right from a young age, who's one of us, like Wee Ross, who is, he's a Rangers fan. He's Northern Irish, but his family are all Rangers fans. He grew up watching Rangers. He talked about, that he's been in the home. He's been in the home end at Hampden Park in cup finals when Rangers have got there in the past. There's something extra special about seeing these young lads go out there and play and pull the blue shirt on, isn't there?
Oh, I completely. The likes of Ross, I've heard him speak a few times about it. Imagine being a massive Rangers fan and working so hard and then get in your place. And now he's got all the fans. You know, all the fans love him as well. It's special. It's amazing.
Absolutely. RM says the fact we don't have a reserve league hampers the development of young players like Rice. I agree, RM, and that's something I said in one of my videos this week. And Philippe Clement said, in the press conference, he talked about how in Belgium and Holland, B teams play up until the level below the top leagues down there. And he was talking about how in Belgium that happened with Bruges and Genk and Anderlecht. And that's what brought through their golden generation. The Vertonghen's, the Vermeulen's, the Hazards, the Romelu Lukaku's, these players that have enabled Belgium to have unprecedented success for a country of their size. I think I looked up the other day. I mean, Belgium's population is only something like 11 to 12 million people. I know, which is double Scotland's, but it's still a very small nation in world football terms. Croatia's another one where their B teams play up into their lower leagues. Croatia has a population of 3.9 million, smaller than Scotland. They're into a World Cup final. Taking the Rangers side of it for Scottish football and for Scotland as well, having young players have a chance to develop in play competitive football has got to be good for the national team too.
Of course. I absolutely.
William says these young guys are playing with world-class players. It's totally different. I think making the point about the English league. But I think, William, at Rangers, they would get a chance to play with players who are better than the level they would experience playing in the B team, playing with the likes of Todd Cantwell, Nicholas Raskin, James Tavernier. They would learn something at least from these players. And I think, given the fact that the level of competition at times within the SPL is obviously nowhere near as high as it is in the English Premier League or the Championship, you've got a situation there where these players could get better and could develop. But yeah, we do need to definitely invest in our youth system 100%. Obviously, Barry Ferguson was one of the one that came through our youth system as well. Okay, let's get on to the, I think it's the final question now, which again is from RM. He says, Bojan Miovski, Aberdeen, MV 2 million euros, Lawrence Shankland, Hearts 1.8 million, Mika Biereth, Motherwell 650k, 3 different strikers. Which one offers the most to Rangers and why do they offer the most? So Miovski, Shankland and Biereth. I must admit, I don't know a fantastic amount about Biereth. I've done a little bit of studying him. He is on loan there from Arsenal. So it's how willing Arsenal would be obviously to let him go. Laura, out of those 3, who jumps out at you the most?
Well, like you were saying about Mika, I'm not even going to try and pronounce his second name. I don't know anything about him. I'm not going to lie. I done a wee bit of research about 6 goals, which isn't too bad. Miovski, I know he was one of the ones that you liked. But for me, it's still going to be Shankland. He's still standing out for me. I guess I would need to look into this other guy, this Mika, but I mean, Miovski as well. I think he's got the same amount of goals as Shankland this season, so I don't know if there's much difference in the two of them in price, but I'm still going to stick with Shankland.
Okay, yeah, I mean, look, I think you've got to kind of look at it realistically in terms of price tags, value to the club, etc., etc. Now, I understand what the trading model is. I understand how a trading model works. I've seen it used in England with Brentford, Brighton, all using it. Now, yeah, I think there is obviously that is very useful, and you do need to bring in young players you can develop as well. But you do still need some older players in and around those younger players. You cannot rely solely on younger players; it doesn't work. And those people who quote the Manchester United example of the treble, their treble, you look at the spine of that team. It had the likes of Roy Keane in it, Dennis Irwin in it. They were experienced guys, so you do need some older players. Obviously, Shankland is 28. Miovski is a lot younger. I think he's about 23, 24. Look, I like Miovski. I think he's a great player. I think he's a really good striker. I think he would score a lot of goals in the Rangers team. If you could choose anyone out of that list, I probably would go Miovski just because he's younger, just because perhaps 2-3 years we could sell him for a bit more money. But the flip side of that is it's Aberdeen. There's no way on God's green earth are Aberdeen going to sell us Miovski. And if they do sell us Miovski, they're going to want an absolutely ludicrous amount of money, more than you could RM now, because it's Aberdeen, because they hate us. They're just not going to do it. As much as I would love it to happen, I know what Aberdeen are like. They're pathetic. They'd be asking for 7, 8, 9 million for him, which is unrealistic and absolutely ridiculous. So, look, yeah, I mean, James says Miovski over Shankland. Shankland, I think, is slightly cheaper. Biereth, I need to do some more research into him. Stuart doesn't think any of them are good enough. William says Miovski every day of the week for me as well. Laura, I mean, looking at Miovski, could you see Aberdeen doing business with us?
No, I don't think Aberdeen are going to let him go. I think they'd probably be a wee bit silly to let him go. And like you said, they're going to ask us for an absolute fortune for him. So I think maybe that's why I'm maybe swaying more to Shankland, because I can't see the Miovski happening. I think they'll want too much money, and realistically, I don't think they're going to sell him. So
not to us. I mean, I could see them selling him to Celtic just to spite us, to be honest with you. RM says Biera 6 goals in 10 games, 60% conversion rate, 80% on shot stocks. That's what I'm looking at. I mean, that is quality. That is really, really good, RM. And I think, obviously he is obviously a very good player. The fact that he's not doing that at a high level in Scotland, he's not playing for one of the two old firm clubs, is outstanding. And, he certainly would be someone I would look at. Like you said, I think you said RM, he is on loan from Arsenal. It's whether or not they would be willing to sell him, or at least move his loan to us, because we have got a whole lot more to offer in terms of European competition, chance of winning trophies, playing in front of 52,000 fans every other week. We offer an awful lot to clubs in terms of taking some of these players on loan. And then obviously you get into the whole debate over, do you want loan players or do you want your own play? It's a difficult one. But Biereth, obviously, I mean, if you could have two, I'd take Biereth and I'd take Shankland. I mean, look, I know Shankland divides the fan base. I understand that. And Ian Deal says Shankland's proved it. He knows our game. Stephen wants Miovski. We've got Stuart says, I want Rangers to do better. And it's gone off there. Let's get back on. I want Rangers to do better scouting and find real gems. Don't think any of them are. So we've got Rangers fans obviously don't want any of those guys, which is obviously, again, it is going to be the case. Whoever we sign is going to have a lot of work to do to win Rangers fans over. Because, I mean, let's face it. I mean, I don't know if you ever heard the quote that Richard Gough once said, Laura. He once said, at most clubs, you're as good as your last game. At Rangers, you're as good as your last pass.
No, I've never heard that saying, but it's actually quite a good one. But no, I've never.
And what was it Barry Ferguson said to a new signing? You've got 10 minutes. Go impress us.
Well, aye.
And I think that is the name. I mean, look, I love our fans to bits. I do love our fans to bits. They're fantastic, and all you guys are fans, and you're all amazing. But I think as a fan base, Laura, we are quite impatient.
Aye, we are. We definitely are. I think some people, they don't take cost and everything into consideration. It's just give me that. But aye, we are. But we all are.
Absolutely.
Never that until you've said it, but yeah, we are.
We are impatient. Look, I'm impatient as well. Look, I'm as guilty of it as any of us are, and slagging players off, slaughtering players in the heat of the moment. Because as fans, we only want one thing, which is our team to do well, our team to win. That's what we are. And Rangers, we've grown up with an expectation of winning trophies, of being the elite club in Scotland, which we are. And there is an impatience that comes with that, and that's just Rangers. And I think whatever player you get and brings into Rangers has got to have the ability to cope with the pressure cooker of Ibrox and the pressure cooker of being a Rangers player.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Dessers is a good example there. He came on, and after maybe 1-2 games, that's everybody was like, they'd completely written him off. Just give him a wee bit of time, and already you can see, he's starting to win the fans over a wee bit more. And aye, we need to be a wee bit more patient, but are we going to be? Probably not.
Absolutely not. No, I mean, I don't think that's just guilt. As long as you're thinking about it, it's not just Rangers fans. It's all fans are like that. I mean, Newcastle, they're as guilty of it. They're a notorious fan base down south for it. You look on the continent, Barcelona, Real Madrid, there as Bayern Munich. All big clubs are. All big clubs expect success. Absolutely. And I can see from the live chat tonight, there's a great debate going on the whole, on the whole Shankland, Miovski, Biereth debate. And would you let Lowry leave, and if you got Shankland in return and money? It is one that is it's just crazy. It's crazy, but it's what makes Rangers so interesting. I think the fact we all discuss this and we all fall out over it sometimes, but we all agree on the same thing, that all we want is Rangers to do well. I mean, Laura, would you, if Hearts came to us and said, okay, it's 3 million and Alex Lowry, would you do that deal, or would you think that Alex Lowry is too valuable for us long term?
Oh, I wish you didn't ask me that. Lowry's too valuable. I wouldn't give Lowry away. I think he's a great player. I think he's going to be. I want to see Lowry play more. I want to see him in the team. No, I wouldn't give Lowry away. No, for me.
Yeah.
Would you?
Yeah, I agree. I think Larry's a good player. I think Larry has the potential to be a very good player. And again, he's someone that can fit into this trading model.
Mm-hmm.
If he comes back to us next year, gets game time, plays, looks good, 2-3 years down the line, again, we could be looking at, not using him as a mate weight, but perhaps getting 7, 8, 9, 10 million pounds for him from an English club. Because let's face it, even if the lad's not worth that, you can charge English clubs ridiculous amounts of money for players because they'll just pay it because they're daft like that.
Yeah.
Flying Scotsman brings a good point here. He says, bring back Hagi. He's different, baby. Laura, Hagi back at Ibrox next season or not?
That's a no from me, I'm afraid. I don't know if I seen something different for Hagi. Right, it was a good player. I'm not. I never seen him as a fantastic player. I seen him as a good player. No, I'm afraid it's a no for me.
Do you think a little bit with Hagi though is we're kind of, I don't know, given how bad things were at the start of the season and Hagi had gone and people were looking for, it's the same a little bit with Sakala. Do you think we're a little bit guilty of rewriting history with Hagi, making him out to be this world-class super talent when, you know what, realistically, he's a good player, don't get me wrong. He is a good player, but he's not, I think, as good as some fans are now making him out to be. I think it's a little bit of history being rewritten.
Yeah, completely. I had never seen the massive fascination with him. I don't know, people just looking at his dad. I don't know. Whenever I watched him play, like I say, he's a good player and he scored goals, but to be a massive, fantastic player and, we gave away one of our best players, nah, I don't think so.
Absolutely. And I mean, obviously, that's the last of our questions there. And just to sort of round it up as we're coming towards the hour mark, and, I'm sure Laura's got things to do, I've got things to do, and I've got work in the morning and at 6:30 again. But another one of the players, obviously, that, that has gone, that there's been interesting stories regarding him just recently. Fashion Sakala. Is Sakala someone you would have liked to have seen stay at Rangers, even just as a squad player this season?
Yep. Aye. I didn't want to see Sakala go. I was gutted for Sakala to go. I would have loved for him to stay there.
Yeah, and I think absolutely, I agree. I mean, look, I was never a huge Sakala fan. He was a good player, and I always said, yeah, he's an impact sub. He's not a starter. But he was a lad who gave everything for the club. And yeah, he could go from world beater to carpet beater in the blink of an eye. Of course he could. But he never stopped trying for the club. And he would give us the option of a wide man. And I honestly think, Laura, that the way he was treated in the end by Michael Beale was absolutely disgusting.
And I didn't even know much of that. In fact, to be honest, I didn't really know half of what he came out in his interview and said. I was quite shocked. Beale, he didn't let him say goodbye to the rest of the team and things like that. It's horrible. And Sakala gave us everything, and his everything wasn't amazing. He wasn't an amazing player, but he gave it everything. He did.
Absolutely, 100%. Ian Dill says, give Hearts Lammers as part of the deal, lol. Look, Ian, I know Hearts can be stupid at times, mate, but I don't think they're going to go for that one. I think you'd struggle to sell Lammers to anyone at this moment in time. I think even a Sunday Park team in the centre of Glasgow would not take Lammers. To be honest with you,
I can safely say, in my lifetime, Lammers is definitely up there with possibly one of the worst players that's ever played for Rangers.
Absolutely. To me, he looks like a competition winner who's got a shirt and is allowed to go run around. And I mean, I heard a fantastic, I can't remember who said it, whether it was on my live stream or where somebody commented it on one of my videos, but there was a great comment. There's the And I know this guy is a raging Tim. I know he's a Celtic fan. Kevin Bridges said that apparently when they were going through Rangers books back in 2012, we owed £40 to a face painting company. Somebody joked that Sam Lammers is the face painter we owed the money to, and he's getting a game just to pay him back for that.
Oh, God. He'd probably be a better face painter.
I don't know. I love our fans. You probably lose the face paint stuff. RM says Burke and Hare wouldn't take Lammers off your hands. That's good. Laura, is that a Rangers top for an action man behind you?
That's my wee boys. He's only fit that this one. God, he must have. Even he had that one. That one's obviously just last year. So we've got loads. All of them. Get a bit.
Wow, fantastic. Come on, when we got that money, we did for Sakala, we'd all take it. It's only now we've had to deal with the likes of Lammers. I think Bluebells are blue. I think that's like I said with the Hagi point. I think given the fact that we've had to deal with Lammers, we've had to deal with Dessa's not being great up until now, when he has improved. You do rewrite history, with players, don't you? That's just how fans are, and I think you're right. We do rewrite history to a certain degree. Ewan Minton jokes that Lammers makes Sibo look like Messi. Pretty good, yeah. I mean, he makes Oleg Salenko look like a decent player. I mean, that's how bad he truly is. Well, guys, thank you so much to everyone in the live chat tonight. Thank you for those people who sent in questions. And you know what? Tonight just shows that as a fan base, we are divided over things, but we unite over the same cause that we all want Rangers to do well. And football is a game of opinions. And as I always say, look, I value everybody's opinion. We all disagree at times. Of course we will. But as long as we do it in a constructive manner, it does not matter. And we all have our own opinions on players, on what's best for the club. But at the end of the day, Laura, we all agree on the same thing, don't we? We just want the best for Rangers.
Of course. Let's aim for the quadruple.
Absolutely, 100%. Laura, just before we finish off tonight, have you got any final thoughts or anything you want to plug or anything you want to tell the guys about?
That's a kind of on the spot question. No, I'm absolutely over the moon where we are now and where Celtic are now, how we're playing compared to them. We're back in the running for the league now. I thought it was over. It absolutely is. Very happy with it at the moment.
Absolutely. And remember, guys, what we were saying earlier, check out Laura Hatton on TikTok. That's the name you need to look out for on TikTok. She does lives, talks about Rangers, even as the Celtic girl on, which is always a laugh. And guys, you know what? Get in the live. If you don't do look, I know the connotations with TikTok, guys, but it actually is a massively growing thing. And all the Rangers pods now have TikTok channels. And you know what? Get on there, because I'll tell you something. You can help Laura bat away those Tims because there is I was on there with Laura earlier, and there is an obsession with us. It is ridiculous the amount of Tims that come on there, isn't it, Laura?
Every time I'm on, there's so many of them.
And there was it one today that said, "Why would Celtic be obsessed with Rangers?" Speaking on a Rangers feed, which I think just completely made himself look ridiculous.
And they'll sit in my live for like an hour, and I play Rangers songs the entire time I'm on. They're sitting there listening to the songs. Like, it's obsession. They love it. They're enjoying it.
Absolutely, of course they do. Well, thank you very much to Laura. Thank you very much to everyone in the live chat, guys. As always, there's two things I always ask for you as we leave tonight, which is number one, smash the like, and number two, as always, never forget, always remember, our city, we are the people.